Hi, everybody. So I bought Mike Lindell's book, What Are the Odds? You see that? I want to leave a little review about it on my video channel here, I guess. So overall, I thought it was really interesting, just fascinating. I have actually been trying to read more books, and I bought all these self-help books, right? About like Zen meditation for the mind and other things like spiritual related, or trying to read Ayn Rand. And I bought 1984, but I haven't read it. I've never read it. And I just can't get into the idea of reading that. And for some reason, I don't know, I felt drawn to read this book. So I did, and I actually got all the way through, which, because a lot of the times I read books and I get halfway through and then I move on to something else because I'm trying to do other things with work. And I did read another book, The Gift of Fear, and I didn't finish the epilogue. But I did get pretty far into that one. The book, The Gift of Fear, that was excellent too. But that's not what this video is about. So I will say the book itself it's big as far as, holding it in my hand. So it was difficult for me. Also, it's hard to, let's say, I'll show you. Like, you can't just turn the pages of the book. It's very difficult. It's not like a paperback, right? And maybe that works for other people, but it was very difficult for me to read with my, I just don't like doing that. I want to be able to turn it, and I can't turn it like that. So it was kind of difficult to hold. So that's one negative. I understand that it's because of the shininess here, that where it goes from his face now versus when he was a crack addict and getting arrested. I think that's really neat. But at the same time, I think that led to that problem. So there he is as a child, and then there he's speaking to a whole crowd like he never thought he would. I like the idea that it is an autobiography of just like a regular guy. I mean, maybe regular is a hard word to use because regularly we're not all crack addicts or something, but he also was a card counter. I have to say, it's just fascinating. If this was turned into, I think it could be turned into a movie and be like a really great movie. I mean, it talks about his card counting at, in various casinos around the United States. And, he does mention that movie where they do card counting in teams. And I mean, that's what he's talking about in this book, which that works as a movie. I know it does. And then, there's good movies about people who go through addiction and come out of it. And like, this would be a great movie if it wasn't for the fact that the Hollywood is mostly leftists who hate his guts and would never do it. But I think it would be a really great movie. So I think that it's very interesting. He's a little all over the place, going back and forth. And I don't find that distracting, but it was there. So there's that. Another positive thing in this book, I'll open it up here, is that, a lot of it is just regular text, but then he's got these portions in the book where he's got pictures. So, you're reading about his escapades, and then all of a sudden these great in color photos. And that happens about 3 times in the book, I think. In the middle, there's some more. And then towards the end, it's right there, some more stuff. So it was really nice to be able to see the photos of that in the middle of it. And so he did try to put the photos of what was being discussed at that particular point in the book at the right times. So it discusses him as a child, and then also as he was becoming addicted, goes through his marriage and divorce, and all sorts of people were trying to swindle him. And I think one of the best things about the book is that he is constantly, like, at the end of his rope, what you would say should have been should have been his rock bottom. And yet he does come back in a sense at times, and then it would be back to rock bottom again, but not for him, because he never stopped doing the cocaine and whatnot. So it's interesting of how many times he could fail and just get right back up again. And another thing, as far as this channel, Leaves of the Tree Healing, is that he was receiving information from God through various ways. So his sister would tell him messages, and he would have other people calling him up and giving him messages. And also he received stuff when he woke up in the morning, like he'd go to sleep and then he'd wake up with this idea and then write it down. And that is what happened to me. Not in the same way, obviously, but in my life wasn't going so great. And then in 2015, May 20th, I know the date because of how much it mattered. And so I woke up from this dream, and of course I put the video on my channel for what the dream was. And then I just felt like I have to do this. And that was basically ended up creating my channel. And that's why I'm here even today. So it's all because of that dream. His wasn't necessarily a dream there, but he woke up with this thought about what to do. And I've had the same thing. There's a lot of times I wake up with a thought and I'm just like, oh, I should do that. So I know what it's like to hear, in a sense, vibrationally from God, and that's in that way. And he wants to be a better person. And I like that he's trying to be, he's failing at various times throughout it. It's very much, he understands he has his problems, and it's just so interesting. It's just fascinating to me. And so I found it very interesting. I don't know. I mean, if other people think that he is, what's the term? I don't know. Some people think he's over the top. And so they might consider him like lying or something, or maybe he's making this up. Well, like I said, there are actually videos, not videos, but pictures to sort of back up the sorts of stuff that he's talking about. Obviously, he did get arrested. He has had many problems. And he has had these other people who were addicted. He would meet them when he was also addicted. And then he would help them break off from the addiction. And then they'd go off and actually get better. And it just, he was helping other people, but he couldn't do it for himself. It was interesting. But he ended up creating this recovery network, the Lindell recovery network for other people. That's part of what he got in that message, from God in the morning. And so I find it very interesting. The other thing is just people keep trying to take advantage of him, and he lays it all out there, which it's got to be humbling for him to put that out there for, like, when somebody said, you're like the worst CEO ever, and he's like, yeah, that stung, like people just really think he's horrible and totally messed up various things. And it's just all out there in the book. It's just, I guess it's that honesty. I believe it's honesty anyway. The other thing, now I'm going to probably switch from discussing the book, but like I said, I think it's very interesting, like could be a movie, actually just fascinating. And that he has helped other people. It does go, let me mention that, it goes past Trump winning, but not by much. So as far as his life goes, as far as when the book stops, but it does talk about him meeting Trump and how he had a vision that he was going to meet Trump. And he's like, I don't know how I'm going to meet Trump. Why would I do that? He had a few visions in the past of what was going to happen, or an understanding that it would happen, but didn't know how. And so that was one of the things. I definitely want to shift and just talk about this towards the end, but my personal experience, not personal, but except for the fact that my dad met him. And I know that my dad works at a church, and my dad asked Mike to donate some pillows, and Mike donated pillows to our church. So, well, our church, I don't go to the church, although I have been to the church, you know. But yeah, so Mike actually donated pillows there. And another thing for me is just, it's really interesting. Oh, okay, so I mentioned one more thing about the book. He talks about his time when he met Prince. See, his bar was very close to Paisley Park. And so, yeah, he met Prince. But that's actually a funny story in here, which another thing, it's funny. There's lots of, it's like, you know, like really horrible events. And then all of a sudden they're laughing about this or that. Yeah, but there's like things that just are interesting to me, so might not be interesting to other people. Like the fact that a lot of it is in Minnesota, and that's where I grew up. And he's talking about Chaska, and I lived in Shakopee, which is right next door to Chaska. I took my driver's test in Chaska. So like when he's mentioning all the areas, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that place. The other thing, his company did end up actually being in Shakopee, which is where I went to high school. And it's actually only his place where he goes is actually only a couple of blocks away from where my mom used to work, across from Valley Fair, which is in Shakopee, just on the outskirts of Shakopee. So I know like where things are, so that could be another thing that's just more personal for me, that's interesting to me. What else? Yeah, when he mentions the casinos, there's a couple of casinos in Minnesota that I know. So like when he's talking about going to Mystic Lake, that was the casino I went to on my 18th birthday. So there's various things in there that's just kind of interesting to me personally. So maybe that's part of it. But he talks about hope match also, which I think is a cool term. I don't know. I just had it open for another video on my other channel, and I'm not going to be able to find it right away probably. You can go to that video though. I'll leave a link below. Or here it is. Okay. A person's hope match is someone who has been through what they've been through and come out clean and sober on the other side with their heart restored. So he talks about going to addiction centers and having them not help him out with his addiction, and then finally meeting somebody who had been addicted in the same way he was addicted, but actually gotten clean. And so his hope match was this person where he was hoping he could be clean just like this person, and this person did it. So because this person was able to do it, so could he, you know, and it brings up the faith, like if they can do it, I can do it. So that's very interesting to me. The idea that you can find somebody else who has gotten clear of addiction and you can sort of attain to that in a sense. So I think that's really neat. So yeah, I think that's about it. But I think that he's a very interesting fellow. It also gives me a new perspective when I see him elsewhere. I don't know that I believe everything he says or whatever, right? Because everybody has their own faults. And he even talks about how he gets angry and, you know, doesn't have the best manners of mannerisms, like how he is angry. I mean, there's a lot of personal issues he had when he was young, which of course is what led to the addiction in the first place, right? So, but at least he's working on that stuff, right? And he's kind of shown me that somebody can fail so many times and then succeed. And it gives me a new perspective for when I see him and people are trying to cancel him and he keeps going. And so it's like, he's not actually, this isn't his first time, right? When people are trying to cancel him now, that's not his first time at dealing with difficult situations. You know, he's always bounced back from that. And it makes me interested to see what will happen with him in the future. So it really personalizes him. You know, we're so used to people dehumanizing other people, whereas if you actually read somebody's story, it makes you personalize them, really understand them, see the humanity in them. And I think that's something the world could use more of today. And it makes me wonder if maybe I wouldn't enjoy other autobiographies in the future because of that, getting to know somebody through various events, or if his was just the best one that, you know, that I would be interested in. I don't know, because I've never read a different autobiography before. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the review, and thanks for watching. Bye.